Hi, this is Martin Howey from Top Line Business Solutions. This morning, one of our consultants, Jody Googe, sent me an email that had a link to an article by a nationally known consultant named Alan Weiss. And I thought the article was very good, and I wanted to kind of go through this article and explain some of the things that he talks about in a little bit more detail and how we handle some of the concerns that he raises. Alan is a very well-respected consultant and works with some of the greatest companies that you'll ever find, the Fortune 500 companies. But one of the things that he said was there are about 400,000 people in the U.S. calling themselves consultants, but only about, by his estimate, about half of those people are actually working as consultants. Now we know that there are some people out there that are making a lot of money as consultants, and some people who aren't doing anything at all. Some people actually call themselves consultants, but they work as perhaps a salesperson for a multi-level organization, and they consult with you and show you how to sell their multi-level products. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about real marketing and business development consultants, the kind we train here at Top Line Business Solutions. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what Alan said. One of the things he says is consulting is a marketing business. If you can have a great approach or a methodology, that's not sufficient anymore. You've got to be able to market yourself effectively. And that's exactly what we teach you in the Top Lines training. In fact, we spend a full day, about 12 hours, going over every marketing concept and marketing idea that we can think of to help you get in front of clients on a cost-effective and very easy-to-do basis. Alan talks about only building on value and not by the hour. Now, we know this is really an important point. Some consultants like to bill by the hour, but you know, there's only so much you can charge by the hour. And there's only so many hours you have to work. And what we like to do is charge by value. And what we do is we show you how to create exceptional value for your client, even before you sign them as a client, showing them what you can do, and then they'll gladly pay you whatever you ask, because you have the answer to their challenges, the challenges they're struggling with and are looking for answers for. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. He also says work with someone who can write a check for you, not a middleman. And that's really important as well. That's why we don't work so much with large corporations. Some of our consultants like doing that. But sometimes you get into a situation where you're trying to explain what it is that you have, and you spend a couple of hours explaining to the prospect how you can help their business. And they say, well, let me take it to the committee and we'll find out what they have to say. And they come back 10 minutes later and they say, well, we're not going to do this. Well, no kidding. You just spent 2 hours explaining your process, and you let them go and make a 10-minute presentation, and they don't know anything about what you're talking about and what you can do. So that's why we always like to work with only decision makers, not middlemen, but people who can actually write the check and hire you as a consultant. Another thing he talks about is some people think that consultants can't get started because of a lack of capitalization, undercapitalization, not having enough money to get started. Well, he says that's not true. Most of it has to do with self-esteem, how you position yourselves. And he said one of the things that consultants are really bad at is they don't consider themselves as peers of their clients. They consider themselves as subordinates. Now let me explain what we talk about here in our training, because this is very important. How you perceive yourself is key. You see, if you have an air conditioner that goes out at your home, and you call out a specialist, and he comes out and he says, I want you to go flip that switch over there and let's see if what I can find out that's not working in your air conditioner. Now, who's working for who? He comes out, he's the one with the knowledge, and he's telling you what to do. Even though you own the air conditioner and you own the home, he told you to go flip that switch, and what did you do? You went and flipped the switch. Then he says, now turn the switch off. And what do? You go and turn it off. So who's working for whom? You're actually working for that repairman that comes out to your home. Now let's talk about how this works in our consulting business. You see, one of the things we do is position ourselves so that we're expert at what we do. We don't chase clients. We teach them how to chase us, how to find us, and how to request our help. So then when you go out to visit with that person, one of the first things you need to think about is what one of our consultants, Steve Clausen, brought up in his training. And he says, when I'm in that room with that other person, that business owner, I look around that room and I say to myself, I'm the smartest person in this room. Not from a conceited standpoint, not from an arrogance standpoint, but because they called me out to solve a problem that they couldn't solve themselves. Therefore, in this particular instance, I must be smarter than them. Now he said what happens is those people, I'm not working for them. They're now working for me. I have answers and I say I need this information and they go get it. I say we're going to implement these strategies and they go do it. There's no room for discussion. There's no room for argument. I'm in the driver's position and they're working for me. And so when you get that kind of self-esteem and that kind of confidence, which we teach you how to do in our training, you now are in the driver's seat. And when you position yourself as not an equal to them, but in fact superior to them in this particular instance, because you have answers to the problems they're looking for, you're going to have a real advantage. And people will then pay you whatever you ask them to pay you for your services. Another thing he says is you need to become a thought leader and own a niche. And if you do that, people will come to you. If you're recognized as the thought leader in your industry or in your market or in a specific niche, then people will be gravitated to you. You don't have to chase prospects anymore because they know what you can do. And the way you do that is through proper marketing. And we show you how to position yourself in that aspect. Another thing he says is to ask your client something like this. If we meet your objectives, what's the impact on your organization? If you're going to help save a company $1 million or improve their market position by 2.5 million, you can get a 10 to 1 or better return. So you can make 100,000 to 250,000 for those jobs. When you're talking to the right buyers, they don't blink at those figures. Now that's really what we do. We ask these people, what is the impact of what we do? What I've just shown you that we can do, what would be the impact on your business? Then we actually show them how that works because we take a calculator, an Excel-based calculator, we plug numbers into their business, or into the calculator rather, and then we calculate that out. If we make a 10% improvement here, a 2% improvement here, a 5% improvement here, over 7 different areas, we can now demonstrate what the impact would be to their business. Now, if you can show them, if we just get a 10% increase in these 7 areas, we can nearly double their business. Now, the things that we're going to show them are very easy to do, very easy to implement ideas and strategies. When they see this, it blows them away because they can see quantifiably what can happen to their business and what kind of an increase they can get. Now, when they see that and they recognize how little you're going to be charging them for what you do, which is a pretty significant amount, by the way, but it's little compared to what they're going to get, it's very easy to close sales. In fact, the presentation that we have and that we teach you will close anywhere between 3 and 4 out of every 5 presentations you make. It's that powerful. It's a matter of knowing what it is that you can do and demonstrating that with quantifiable, easy to look at figures. And we do all that on an Excel-based calculator. And it's very powerful. Another thing that Alan says is your fee is not based on how often you show up or how long you take. Unlike when you're billing by the hour, the faster you solve someone's problem, the more valuable you are. If you charge by the hour, you're in an ethical conflict because you're tempted to drag out the process. And you know, business owners understand that. The more you charge by the hour, the more often, or the more likely it is that you're going to drag out the process. Now here's another situation. You want to create as much income for that business as you can, as fast as you can. Now here's our goal. How can we add the greatest amount of profits to the bottom line of that business in the shortest amount of time, with the least amount of effort, the lowest amount of capital invested, and the least amount of risk? In other words, how can we quickly, easily, cost-effectively, and risk-free put money in their pocket? Put jingle in their jeans, we like to say. Create extra dollars for them. See, the faster you can do that, the more likely you are to say, hey, I'm very pleased with this opportunity that we have to work with this person. If it takes you a long time to generate some income for them, they might look at you every month and say, well, I'm paying this money out, but we're not getting anything back. And the less likely they are to follow your direction. So you want to create as much money as you can, as fast as you can, so that business owner looks at you and says, that was a great investment. The second part is, you want to create as much money as you can, as fast as you can, because that puts money in your pocket too. And that's very important. We look at the whole thing. So our job and our goal is not to work by the hour, but work by the results. And we show you exactly step by step how to do that in a number of different ways. We have several different ways that our consultants charge, and we go over that in very great detail in our training. Another thing that Alan says is, if you can fix something in a day, you're happy and the client's happy, and we just talked about that. Then he says, how does a consultant get past gatekeepers and pitch the economic buyer? Well, you get them to come to you. When you do that, you don't have any problem with credibility, and fees are an academic matter. The platinum standard is a peer-to-peer reference. The gold standard is a commercially published book. It doesn't matter how many you sell. Now, what he's talking about is the best way to get a client is to have you referred or endorsed by somebody else that you've already done business with, or somebody that's a trusted advisor to that client. Now, in our situation, we don't look for referrals. We'd rather have introductions. Oh, referrals are nice, but an introduction is even more important. An introduction is when somebody that you do business with says to their friend, you know, John, you and I play golf together, and you and I have talked about our businesses, and you've watched what I've been able to do with this consultant, and watched what the results are with my business. I'd like to introduce you to this person. So I suggest that maybe the three of us go to lunch, and then I can introduce you. He'll ask you a few questions about your business, give you some ideas that you can do right away, whether you hire him or not. And then if you like what he has to say, then you two can work out an arrangement. If you don't, he'll put on his hat, jump on the back of his horse, and ride off into the sunset, and everything's still fine. How about we do that? Now, when you go to lunch with this person, and they give you that kind of an endorsement or that kind of an introduction to someone, it's much more powerful than if somebody says, well, yeah, I've got a referral for you. Call John over at ABC Company and tell him I sent you. Not very powerful, not very convincing, and not very effective. So one of the important things that we talk about is how to get introductions. He says a corporate buyer will be attracted to people who are posting articles, writing columns online, as well as in hard copy. The more you do that, the more you speak at major conferences. Speaking, networking, publishing, going to conferences are all great ways to get buyers to come to you. Trade associations are great. Many times you're being paid to address 200 buyers in the audience. Now, one of the things he mentioned in the previous question is getting introductions and then getting something published. Now, he talked about a commercially published book. Commercially published books are good, but you can also publish them yourself. And you don't have to tie up a lot of money, and you make a lot more money in the sale of the books. Now, we provide a book for you in our training. A book that I've written, a book that's very effective, and you can change the title, you can change any of the content in it you want. You can put your picture on it, take mine off, put your picture, take my name off and put your name on, and you have a book. Now you might say, well, but I didn't write the book. That's not honest, that's not ethical. I didn't write the book. How can I put my name on something I didn't write? Well, that's why they call people who write books ghostwriters. Most of the people out there who write books, like Donald Trump and some of these other people, don't write their own books. They might be interviewed, or they might take something they said in a conference or in a seminar, and they might translate that or transcribe that and then put it in the book. Other people will take something that's written, like what I've written for you, and you'll say, well, I like this, but I want to change a few words in here and make it mine. Put my own examples in it. Well, you can do whatever you want. The book is there. You can use it as is, change the name on it. You can change the content if you want to. You can add your own illustrations. You can add more material to it. You can delete some of the material. In other words, it's there. If you want to use it as a template and say, all right, I like what he says here, but I'm going to rewrite that in my own words, that's okay. The point is, you have a book, and because you have a book, you've written a book and you're the author, now you have credibility that somebody else who doesn't have a book wouldn't have. Articles are another thing. We give you tons of articles that you can use, that you can post on your website, or that you can send out to people as teasers or as information to get them to want to contact you. And we have several other things that we use as well. DVD programs, we have CD programs that you can record on your own. Now you have a CD program, and you can put this together on a CD and send it out to somebody, an audio program or perhaps a video program, that are very effective in getting people to understand who you are and want to know more about what it is that you do and how you do it. Alan goes on and he says, your value added is to ask what they want and discover what they need, and that's where you get higher fees. Now you see, a lot of consultants will go into a business and they'll say, okay, here's what we need to do. We need to add 4 new salespeople. We need to increase your mailings, your direct mailings, by $2,500 a month. We need to take out some more ads. In other words, spend more money. And that's not what we're about. We're saying, how can we take the money they're already spending and reallocate it into areas that are more effective? So if they're spending money on something, let's measure that and see what kind of result they're getting. If they're not getting a result, then let's eliminate that. Or let's figure out how can we use that same information with that same source and get a better result. So our thing is all about how can we go into a business and take what they're doing right now, make it more effective, and then add to it the things that we need to do to make it even more effective. And then the other thing we do, let me back up here, we have a 40-page business audit that we sit down with that company and go over. And we show them, we ask them questions. And the questions that they're going to give us, or the answers they're going to give us rather, are going to be the things that we build on to help grow their business. And there's a couple of reasons why we ask these questions, 40 pages worth. One is to discover what the problems are in the business. And many times they don't even know. But by going through these questions, they're going to now be forced to think about these things in their business. And I'll tell you what, after about the third page of questions, the typical answer you're going to get from some of the things you're going to ask are, I don't know. Should I know that? I never thought about that. You see, in other words, business owners do what they do every day, the same thing every day. They never think about some of the things that will cause them to create more prospects or more sales or more income or reduced costs. They never think about those things because nobody's ever sat down and gone over it with them. And that's exactly what we do. So our goal is to try to get as much good information from them as we can with this questionnaire. But the other part of this is to get them to realize that they don't know what's going on in their business because they can't answer the questions. And you see, when you get them to admit it, now I can't say to them, John, you know, when it comes to running your business, you're a complete idiot. I can't say that. But many times your prospect will come back to you or your client will come back to you and say, you know, I didn't think. I thought I knew what I was doing in my business, but I didn't think about some of the questions that you've just asked. Had I known those questions, I could have developed the answers and our business would be a lot farther ahead than it is right now. So you see, there's a twofold reason that we use that questionnaire. And I'll tell you, it's very effective because they realize that because you're asking the questions, you probably have the answers for them. And it's very powerful. It positions you very strongly. Alan goes on, he says, I don't pursue companies that need remedial help. Pursue companies that have money and are already leading the pack. In most cases, these firms don't have competition nipping at their heels, so they don't have high standards. You can help them improve their productivity, become more global and more customer-oriented. And that's really true. The dry cleaners on the corner is not your client. That's not where you want to go. They may make some money, but most of those are drop-off shops anyway, where you drop off your clothes and then a truck comes by and picks them up and takes them to the cleaner and then brings them back and that's where you pick them up. The local insurance agent is not your client. We're going to show you how to find the clients that are yours, the ones that are doing somewhere between $500,000 and $25 million in business. That's your market. Now you say, well, I have a business out there that's doing $1 million. That's a pretty good sized business. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Let's say that they run on a 30% margin. In other words, 70% of what they take in goes to buy the products or services that they sell to their prospects or clients. That means they have $300,000 left after expenses, after cost of goods sold. Now they still have their operating expenses. They have their rent, their utilities, their vans or their delivery trucks. They have the warehouse guy, they have the delivery guy, they have the receptionist, they have a couple of people that work for them. When you get right down to it, they might only have $40,000 or $50,000 left for the owner to take out after they pay all the overhead and the taxes and all that overhead that we just talked about. So here's a guy making $1 million, but he's only taking home $40,000 or $50,000. Not very good. Now let's flip it around and say that this is a service business. There is no cost of goods sold. Maybe it's a CPA or an accountant or a financial planner, and he does $1 million a year, and there's a small office and a secretary, and he buys a few ink cartridges for his printer, and he buys a couple of legal pads and some pens. Now he might be in a 75 or 80% margin business. Now you see the big difference. Same number of dollars on the front end, the revenue end, but a big difference on what the net is. And so you want to look for businesses that have the higher net worth. And so it's not a matter of how many employees they have or how many dollars they bring in. It's really a matter of margins. And we show you exactly how to do that. Alan says, I turn down some business that's not in my sweet spot. I give them a referral. Lousy prospects make terrible clients. If you have a meeting with the potential client who shows up late, cuts off your sentences, runs people in his organization down, and spends the time complaining, you don't want to work with them. Get out of there. You're carrying around all these lousy clients. You won't have time to reach out for the good ones. And we show you how to do that. I'm telling you, we have clients that come to us, or consultants that come back to us and say, I had this meeting with this person and he didn't show up. Or I asked them several times, are all the decision makers going to be present? And they said, yes, 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 every time I asked. And every time we send out a correspondence to make sure all the decision makers are present. And then when I got there, and I got all finished, with my presentation, they said, well, let me think about it. What is there you need to think about? Well, I need to go talk to my partner. Well, wait a minute. I thought you said all of the decision makers were here, would be present, and they're not here. You see, what has that person done? They've just lost and destroyed their credibility with you. And they've told you that they're liars and they're not going to work with you up front. You see, if they're willing to do that to you in your presentation stage, what are they going to do later on when you come back and you have a potential solution for the problem? They'll say, well, I don't know. You know, we've tried something like that before. What else do you have? So now you go back and you create something else and you come back. Well, we tried direct mail before, but direct mail just really didn't work for us. What else do you have? You keep doing this over and over and over, and you're burning time. And that costs you money, and it costs them money, and it's frustration. You want somebody that you will deal with you honestly and ethically right up front, or you don't want to deal with them. It's just that plain and simple. And that's what we teach you how to do, how to avoid those situations. And then if you get into a situation like that, what to do about it. Alan says, what advice do you have for someone just starting out in consulting? He said, number one, get together a marketing approach, have an internet presence, have hard copy materials that include your company name, logo, and branding. Now we do that. We give you the book, we give you all of these reports that we have. We'll show you exactly what to do, how to create all of it. It's already created for you. How to just change it and modify it and make it yours. So now you hit the deck running because you've got all this marketing material ready to go for you. The next thing he says, then call everyone you know, all of your contacts and civil organizations, your family, social, and college networks, your last employer. Tell them, here's what I'm doing these days. If you have a need for this, I'd love to talk to you. If you know someone who needs this, I'd love it if you'd put us together. You can't be shy, you can't be bashful, or feel like you're imposing. If you include your dentist and your doctor on the list, you'll probably contact about 200 people and you'll get leads in business. And we already have all the emails ready for you. The same thing that we're talking about here, just worded a little bit differently. And you send these emails out to everybody you know and let them know, here's what I'm doing today. I thought you might like to know. If you need these services or if anybody else needs these services, I'd like to talk with you. It's very effective, and it's a good way to generate, first of all, the interest in what you're doing, and you're contacting people that you've known over the years. We also suggest that you send a small gift along. So you'll send out an email, and you might follow up with a handwritten letter or a computer-generated letter along with a special gift of some type. And we tell you exactly what to put in there or give you some ideas on what you can do. And that just helps solidify this because you just send them an email, and now you turn right around and you send them a hard copy of something, and it becomes very effective in positioning you as somebody who knows what they're doing and somebody who's interested in growing their business. You give yourself 6 or 8 months to make that first sale, and in 12 or 15 months you should be able to support yourself and your family. If that's not happening, this may not work for you, and you should go back into the workforce or go raise rabbits someplace. Now, here's where I have to depart from what Alan says. He says it's going to take you 6 to 8 months to get your first client, and 12 to 15 months before you can make a living. That's not good enough. We'll have our first client. If you'll do what we tell you to do and follow the steps that we tell you to do, you'll have your first client in anywhere from a week to 10 days. 2 weeks at the most, you'll have your first client. Paying client, where you'll have money generated. At the end of 30 days or 60 days, you'll be on your own and you'll be creating the kind of income that you were creating before. It's a matter of just following a simple step-by-step, paint-by-the-numbers formula. And if you can do that, anybody can generate this kind of income. Now, can't make that kind of a promise to you because I don't know who you are, I don't know what your motivation is, I don't know where you are, I don't know what your market is. But here's what I can tell you. The consultants who are successful are the ones who follow the step-by-step, laid out for you plan, detailed plan that's a no-fail type of plan. The ones who are not successful are the ones who are going back trying to modify it and say, well, I don't like the way this is, I'm going to change this, or I'm going to change that, or I'm going to make it fit me, or whatever. And then they don't do anything with it. They will either send something out that's not very effective, or they won't do anything at all. And I'll tell you, just being able to go through the training and have this information at your disposal isn't enough. You have to do something with it. Action is the key. And we're going to tell you step by step how to do this. I thought Alan's article was good. Overall, it's very good. A few things that I kind of disagree with a little bit here, especially this last point, because you can get up and get running very, very quickly. And it's just a matter of following the step-by-step system. Well, I hope this serves you. I hope it was good for you. I hope you learned something from it. I hope that if you're interested in learning how to be a marketing or business development consultant, you'll listen to this information maybe again and listen to some of the things I've told you about what we do and how we train our folks. then if you'd like more information, please feel free to get in contact with us. I'll be happy to spend whatever time I need to help you find the answers to your questions and see if this is a right business for you to be in, and see if you're a right fit for us as well. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you taking the time with us.